a destroyed hospital and killed patients. The consequences of another Russian terrorist attack. The Ukrainian military will start drafting people over 60, and there is no water in occupied Donetsk region. I'll tell you more about all this right now on TSN. As always, I ask you to subscribe to our channel and leave your comments. And here are a few more topics from today's broadcast. A Russian terrorist attack in Zaporizhia.
The first two strikes were so loud that even the houses shook.
The occupiers dropped aerial bombs right on a correctional facility. How many people were killed, and what happened to the wounded? 16 dead and nearly 100 wounded at the correctional facility in Zaporizhia. 44 people were taken to the hospital, and 50 received assistance on the spot. The Russians dropped at least 8 aerial bombs on the village of Brink. The correctional facility and residential homes came under attack. The aftermath was witnessed by Kira Olza's film crew.
The Russians dropped 8 aerial bombs on one of the villages in the Zaporizhia district. The occupiers targeted the correctional colony as well as local residents' homes. Everything people had was completely destroyed.
The greatest destruction was suffered by the Brink correctional colony. The Ministry of Justice reported that the Russians struck it with 4 aerial bombs. 16 inmates were killed on the spot, and more than 40 others were injured. They required hospitalization. Some of them are in serious condition. Doctors are fighting for their lives. Another 50 people suffered minor injuries and received assistance on the spot. The facility's cafeteria, administrative headquarters, and quarantine unit were completely destroyed. It was a hellish night, say the residents of Brink. Russian terrorists also dropped aerial bombs on private homes. Miss Helena still can't recover from the shock. With tears in her eyes, she shows TSN her shattered house. She says she and her family were sitting in the kitchen when the occupiers struck near the house.
If I hadn't gone into the kitchen, of course, I would have been hurt. The glass would have shattered on me. Maybe even my heart would have given out. I don't know. When it hit, it was like an explosion. It smashed the house terribly. How is something like this even possible?
In the garden of Ms. Ladnola's neighbors, instead of a harvest, there's now a bomb crater. People are clearing away the debris. The strikes were so powerful that about 100 houses and social infrastructure in the village were destroyed. A special commission is currently working, documenting the damage.
2 KABs were dropped at a time. There were a lot of KABs. The first 2 strikes were so loud that the houses were literally shaking. Windows and doors were flying off. We also have damaged windows and doors in the educational institutions. That's the Bylankivsky Lyceum Lighter and the Divosvit Kindergarten, and also the hospital. 7 windows were damaged. And we have 3 apartment buildings as well.
The village council says that Brink has never experienced such a massive strike before, and charitable organizations have already arrived in the village to provide assistance to those affected. In particular, they will be distributing plastic sheeting and plywood so people can cover their windows and roofs. Kira Oves, Andriy Hopovka, TSN 1+1.
The number of injured in Kamiansk, Dnipropetrovsk region, has risen to 22. Among them is a pregnant woman in critical condition. Doctors are trying to save her. 3 more people, including a 23-year-old woman who was 7 months pregnant, have died. Russian war criminals attacked the hospital with ballistic missiles. Pavlovska will tell you more.
On the steps of the maternity hospital, where new life was welcomed every day, there is blood. As a result of the night attack on the city, 23-year-old Diana was killed. She was in the hospital alone, waiting for her son to be born. Another pregnant woman was injured. Doctors are fighting for the woman's life. Ballistic strikes hit the city at night. The occupiers targeted the center of Kamiansk with missiles. The explosions happened almost immediately after the air raid alert. The medical facilities have been completely destroyed. A baby boy was born here just a few hours before the strike. 9 newborns and their mothers were able to be taken down to the shelter in time.
Thank God. Neither the mothers nor the babies were hurt. Somehow everything was done so quickly and coordinated that they didn't even notice how we all ended up in a safe place. Of course, they were frightened.
The medical staff who were saving patients were injured. Their lives are not in danger. With bandaged wounds, they are clearing out the destroyed wards and delivery rooms.
I have minor injuries. Everything will be fine. The door fell on me when I was leading the women out. Glass on my legs, on my hands. It's nothing serious.
Another victim was an elderly man in a neighboring therapeutic building. He was in the palliative care unit. Relatives of the patients say that many of the sick simply didn't have time to hide.
He turned away because he was paralyzed, his right side was immobile. And everything was falling on him, from the ceiling, from the windows, everything. He was terrified after a stroke.
In total, there were about 100 people in the medical facilities that night. 5 were injured. Here, offices and wards are destroyed.
The endoscopy office, the place.
The medical staff are cleaning up the damaged property.
The oncology department was hit very hard. All the offices were damaged, all the windows shattered, the ceilings collapsed, and the doors were torn off.
In total, windows were blown out in about 50 buildings, with more than 300 windows smashed to pieces.
It's a nightmare. The explosions were so loud, it was unreal. Glass was flying everywhere. Made this come back to them 1,000 times over.
There's significant destruction in the center of Kamiansk.
Besides that, 2 school buildings, 2 kindergartens, and 2 more of our medical facilities were damaged, the children's clinic and also the dermatology dispensary.
Patients from the destroyed medical facilities have already been transferred to other departments. These premises are no longer suitable for providing care. Alexander Pavlovsky, Kolish, Dnipropetrovsk region, TSN 1+1.
5 people killed and 3 wounded. The Russians opened fire on a group of people in the village of Novoplatonivka. This is in the Izium district of the Kharkiv region. People had gathered near a store to receive water as humanitarian aid, since there is no water supply in the village. And at that moment, the occupiers struck with multiple rocket launchers. Those who survived the strike suffered severe injuries, including traumatic amputations. Grads also targeted Kupiansk, killing a local resident. Another person was killed in Dirachi. There, a drone attacked a civilian car. An elderly man did not survive the strike. His son was taken to the hospital. The Russians attacked a fire truck in Konstantinivka, Donetsk region, with an FPV drone. 2 rescuers sustained injuries and burns. They were on their way to evacuate civilians from under shelling when the Russians launched the attack. 3 more townspeople were injured as a result of KGB strikes. 5 people were injured in the Sumy region. In Bilopilia, an 11-year-old boy is in a hospital after an unknown object exploded in his hands. In the Krasnopil community, an FPV drone attacked a man who was taking his cow out to pasture. In Burin, a drone injured a shop assistant in a store, and a resident of Saradina Buta suffered burns and wounds during a rocket artillery attack. In Russia, a railway connection was blown up. Last night, drones attacked the Salsk station in the Rostov region. Because of the large-scale drone attack, the contact lines there were severed, so trains had to be rerouted around the destroyed infrastructure. Social media reports say that several railcars carrying military equipment burned down. It was along this route that the aggressor's army transported weapons and fuel to the occupied Ukrainian territories and to the front. In addition to the railway station in the Rostov region, a nearby resource base of the enemy army also caught fire after the drone attack. A fire broke out, and the locals reacted to it very emotionally. It is also known that as a result of the drone attack in the Belgorod region, a man was killed. And another group of drones struck an electrical substation in the village of Orlovsky and in temporarily occupied Donetsk. About 20 explosions were heard there. After the attack, more than 150,000 subscribers in the occupied city were left without electricity. An unidentified drone crashed in Minsk last night. The Belarusian Ministry of Defense reported that the drone violated the airspace, after which electronic warfare systems and air defense were activated. Eventually, the device landed on one of the streets of the Belarusian capital. There were no casualties as a result of the incident, but the local government announced that the country will begin to tighten control over its airspace. You can't drink, you can't wash. There is a water crisis in the part of Donetsk region occupied by Russia. Water is supplied only once every 3 days in Donetsk, and once every 2 days in Mariupol and other cities. Water has to be delivered to the settlements by special water trucks, sometimes even from Moscow. Some villages have been without water for over a month. Locals are filming footage of the weak, murky flow coming from their taps. At the same time, the prices for water supply in the temporarily occupied territory of Donetsk region have just been raised. The Russian BBC service has studied the Donetsk reservoirs using satellite imagery. Journalists say the bodies of water have become critically shallow. But that's not the only reason for all the problems. The water pipeline that supplied water to Donbass from the territory controlled by Kiev has been destroyed by the fighting. On top of that, the infrastructure there was already very outdated, and the Russian authorities did nothing to take care of it. Now the self-proclaimed authorities are rushing to solve the crisis, as widespread discontent is brewing there. Meanwhile, children from the occupied region are recording appeals to Putin, begging him to help with the water. In populated areas, fields, and tree lines, fighters from the 3rd Assault Brigade are eliminating the enemy. They share corresponding videos on their social media. One of these videos shows combat operations against Russians in a village beyond the line of contact in the Kharkiv region. Enemy personnel and equipment have been destroyed. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the 33rd Separate Mechanized Brigade have shown how they rescue not only wounded soldiers but also malfunctioning drones. Here you can see a drone evacuating its comrade whose battery has run out. At the same time, the situation near Pokrovsk is escalating. The occupiers are using drones to monitor the routes between Pokrovsk and Myrnharad, which complicates logistics for our troops, and they have advanced toward Rodinsk, which borders Pokrovsk. In this way, they are trying to encircle both cities. The defense forces have also lost positions in Kurdyamivka. This is not far from Kostantinivka. These are the figures from Deep State. The Russians have also moved even closer to Siversk. They are pushing through our front line in the Lyman direction as well. There, the General Staff recorded 13 combat clashes. In total, 73 battles were recorded on the front line over the past day, with children and almost no belongings. The war is forcing more and more people to flee from Dnipropetrovsk region. People are leaving en masse even from those communities where mandatory evacuation hasn't even been announced. However, Russian glide bombs, missiles, and drones are forcing people to drop everything and leave. Volunteers evacuate dozens of residents from frontline villages every day. Since the beginning of the year, the humanitarian mission Proliska alone has transported about 2,000 people, 600 of whom are children. Anastasia Naverna witnessed how people say goodbye to their homes and loved ones.
Women with small children are waiting for the evacuation bus. Scenes like these have become commonplace in villages on the border with Donetsk region. When people see the volunteers, they start to cry because the time to part has come. Svetlana is leaving for Melomykailivka with her 4 children. Her husband is staying behind for now. The youngest ones are crying and clinging to the older siblings. They just can't say goodbye to their dad. Daddy will be here soon. Everything will be all right. Already on the bus, Svetlana keeps repeating she couldn't not go. It became too loud and dangerous in the village.
It was very hard for me. This past week, I couldn't sleep or eat at all. I was really worried.
I just hoped nothing would happen to us. For those 2 days, it was banging really hard around us. Our house was destroyed. The kids were terribly scared yesterday.
They comfort themselves with the thought that they're going to their grandfather's in Cherkasy region. They hope it will be quieter there. Nadia, a mother of 3, is leaving from a neighboring village. She doesn't know where she's heading yet, but after her eldest son nearly got hit by an air bomb and their house was damaged by shrapnel, she couldn't bring herself to stay.
It's scary. Every day feels like walking on pins and needles, you know. We had just put the windows back in because the roof had been blown off. We fixed the roof, and again, from early this morning, it was loud. The kids are scared. If it weren't for the kids, maybe I could somehow manage.
On another street, a mother and daughter meet the bus, probably walking the path to their family home for the last time, showing the way to the evacuation team. They're heading all the way to distant Zakarpattia.
There were more than 30 cluster munitions. Sinichka got scared. A child can't stay here, not in these conditions. Today, since 2 in the afternoon, it's been happening again. Sonia is crying. I just can't leave a child in this kind of situation.
It feels like everything's packed, but the family home just won't let go.
Oh, wait. I forgot to change my shoes. If only I could just leave. Dodia, here, hold this.
For now, Mom and my brother are staying at home.
The kids are just scared of the explosions, you know? But for now, we're still holding on. We've got a little bit of a farm from that garden, so we manage a bit.
Saying goodbye tears your heart apart. When the bus starts moving, Grandma runs after it to bless her dearest girls.
May God help you. Go with God. Have a safe and peaceful journey.
Mrs. Lyubov is 84. She's from the village of Haverlivka. Her son brought her to the evacuation team.
So, how are you? Come on, get out, get out. Take your canes.
She slowly shuffles toward the car. She's very scared to go into the unknown, but she says it's even scarier to stay at home.
I've been scared for a long time, only when it's really loud. Houses are being destroyed, the ground is torn up. It just collapsed, and that's it.
The sun is still there.
KBs, FPV drones. Well, restless. The Frontline is approaching. She couldn't go into the basement, let's say, the bomb shelter.
Since the beginning of the year, the evacuation teams of the humanitarian mission Perliska have taken about 2,000 people out of the villages in Dnipropetrovsk region closest to the front line. In recent weeks, the situation has worsened due to heavy shelling. Dozens of requests come in every day.
On the 17th, the number almost doubled. Even without the announcement of mandatory evacuation, people have started reaching out to us more often, and we are taking them out.
This time, the volunteers managed to evacuate more than 10 people away from the front line, 7 of whom were children. Everyone will be helped to find a place to live and to get there. The evacuation team themselves don't rest for long. They get ready to hit the road again, because new people fleeing the war are already waiting for them. Anastasia Naverna, Vladislav Kemishin, Dnipropetrovsk region, TSN 1+1.
A contract for those over 60. The President of Ukraine has signed a law that allows men over 60 to be enlisted for service with the commander's consent. Such contract soldiers will be able to hold non-combat positions in the ranks of privates, sergeants, or warrant officers, as well as junior or senior officer positions. But first, they will have to undergo a trial period of up to 2 months. For those who don't pass, the contract will be terminated. Others will be able to sign a 1-year contract with the approval of the General Staff. If they wish, it can be extended. Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed Donald Trump's statement about shortening the deadline for Russia to reach a peace agreement. The president called it decisive and timely, and thanked Trump for focusing on saving lives and stopping the war. Zelensky also stated that our country remains committed to peace and will tirelessly work with the United States to make both our countries safer. The controversial deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, also responded to Trump's decision to shorten the deadline for Russia from 50 days to 10 or 12. He threatened Washington with war. Thus, as reported in the Western press, Moscow is making it clear to the United States that they do not intend to stop military actions against Ukraine until they achieve their goals. Senator Lindsey Graham, who is actively promoting a bill with sanctions against Russia in the U.S. Congress, responded yesterday to Medvedev's post on social media. He said verbatim, "The Kremlin has seriously miscalculated Trump's intentions and advised them to sit down at the negotiating table. Brussels is threatening to halt financial aid to Ukraine because of the scandalous law surrounding NABU and SAP. This is reported in an article by the German newspaper Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Brussels has reportedly sent a letter to the Ukrainian authorities signaling that aid could be completely suspended if central government bodies put pressure on anti-corruption agencies. And according to the publication Economic Pravda, the EU will be closely monitoring the parliamentary vote on Thursday, when new bills aimed at restoring the independence of Nabu and Sapo are expected to be considered. If the provisions of the controversial bill are not repealed, funds allocated from the profits of frozen Russian assets, as well as financing from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the European Investment Bank, could be blocked. The money allocated under the Ukraine Facility Program will not be stopped, but the next tranche, due to setbacks and reforms in Ukraine, will be almost $1.5 billion less. Will the deputies pass a new law this week to effectively limit the effect of the previous one? And will we see protests again in Ukrainian cities? Be sure to write your predictions in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Well, the TSN broadcast continues. We still have more to tell you ahead. Hunger in the Gaza Strip is reaching a critical point. This is reported by a unit supported by the UN. The organization is calling on Israel to cease hostilities and provide unhindered access for humanitarian aid to the Palestinian region. More than 2 million people live in the Gaza Strip. According to statistics, from May to July this year, the number of families experiencing extreme hunger has doubled. The level of malnutrition has increased by 12%. This is felt especially acutely by infants and new mothers. Going out to get food packages is extremely dangerous, as hostilities are still ongoing in the region. People often die while waiting in line for food. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejects all accusations of deliberately orchestrating famine. Official Tel Aviv has decided to announce a tactical pause in order to provide humanitarian aid to the region. However, two leading Israeli human rights organizations are indeed accusing the authorities of genocide in Gaza and yesterday called for an immediate end to this crime. The fact of famine in the Palestinian region was also acknowledged yesterday by Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, due to the critical situation in Gaza, even recalled his ministers from their summer holidays. An emergency meeting on the humanitarian situation in the Middle East is scheduled to be held today. A shooting in downtown New York. 5 people were killed in a skyscraper in Manhattan, including a police officer and, in fact, the shooter himself. Law enforcement has already identified his name. He is 27-year-old Shane Tamura. According to investigators, he drove to downtown New York by car and to the skyscraper's lobby and started shooting chaotically at those inside. Then he went up to the 33rd floor, where the offices are located, and continued killing people. After the shooting, the man took his own life. His motives are still being determined, but the American press reports that the man had a history of mental illness. It is also said that he allegedly had grievances with the National Football League, whose headquarters are located in that very skyscraper.